Going to be talking about, can autoimmunity exist without parasites? If we haven't met, my name is Pam Bartha, and I'm the author of Become a Wellness Champion and the founder of Live Disease Free. This topic is really important to me because I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 35 years ago. And by the grace of God and a lot of work on my part and diligence, I learned early on that this autoimmune disease that I was diagnosed with was actually caused by infections, by parasites. And so it's so important that we get clear on this, because if we stay focused on the topic of autoimmunity, then, or autoimmune diseases, there is no known cause and there is no cure. But when we actually know that there actually is a cause and it is different types of parasites, then it's not a mystery. Then we can really hone in on what is causing our symptoms, what is causing the disease, and we can recover and we can get on with our life. And the sooner we do that, the more recovery we can have and the quicker we can recover. So this topic is very near and dear to my heart, and I wanted to share just a beautiful quote from one of the hero doctors that I follow, Dr. McDonald, because this is the language that I keep saying, but it's so nice to hear it from a pathologist with, I'm sure, at least over 30 years of experience working in his field. And he is just incredible. So, does the immune system turn on itself? Does the body attack the immune system, attack our own tissues and our cells, for example? And that is the topic for today. The reason that this just can't be true is that we know, and I'm going to talk just about a few different types of intracellular parasites. So these are parasites that like to live inside the cell. So if there's a parasite hanging out, hiding inside your cell, your immune system is going to attack an infected cell. That's its job. It's a sick cell and it has to get rid of it. So then do we call that autoimmunity, or do we just call that your immune system is dealing with infection? So by definition, autoimmune, and this is, again, it has not been proven, but what the definition of autoimmune is, basically when your body's immune system mistakenly attacks your own body tissue. So it's not recognizing your body tissue cells as self, but it's actually recognizing it as foreign, a foreign object, and it wants to attack it. So that is the definition of autoimmune. And it doesn't make any sense. But we do know that all autoimmune conditions, all autoimmune diseases, they are inflammatory conditions. That means that that our immune system is fighting something. So in every single case of autoimmune disease, there's inflammation is involved. And by definition, inflammation is your immune system fighting something. And what is the primary job of our immune system? It is to defend us from infections. So why are we not looking at infections? Why are we not going in that direction? If with whatever disease you're dealing with, you know that your immune system is fighting something, you've got inflammation, and you know the primary job is to protect us from infection. Why are we not looking for infections? That is the big topic. And this is where I want to encourage you to start having discussions in different groups. Maybe you're part of, maybe you have some kind of arthritis and you're in different groups with people that are dealing with arthritis, or maybe you're suffering from multiple sclerosis or inflammatory bowel disease, and maybe you're networking with different groups where people are really searching for answers. I'd love for you to share this information with them and help them to start thinking. And because we're not biologists, right? Most of us, maybe if we took biology in grade 11 or 12 in high school many, many years ago. So we don't know the language of biology, and we really trust. We trust our practitioners, and we just trust that everybody's doing the right science, and they're not doing the right science. It's really unfortunate. So let's go to the And I just, before I go to Dr. Alan McDonald's quote, I wanted to mention too that the whole notion of autoimmune, it really wasn't, it didn't have any popularity before the early 1950s. So that's really when we started to go off track, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. And the important quote from Dr. Alan McDonald, it's just so beautiful. This is word for word what he said, and it's so true. The autoimmune connection has been formulated by people that want to argue persuasively that the body has turned on itself. The immune system is not stupid. The immune system is not there to turn all of its fury against the cells that you were born with. If the parasite penetrates a cell line, so for example, if a parasite penetrates, let's say, your kidney cells or your bladder cells or your intestinal lining, whatever cell line that it's attacking or penetrating, and it lives inside the cell as a parasite, the immune system will sense that there's something wrong, and it'll attack those infected cells. It's doing its job. This may seem like it's autoimmune when it's really bacteria inside our cells that the immune system is trying to take out. This is completely appropriate. This is a completely appropriate response for the immune system. These diseased cells are infected, and the immune system's job is to remove them and to clear them away. Calling it autoimmune is a miscarriage of medical thinking. I don't think that all these things that are considered to be autoimmune are actually, in fact, anything other than intracellular or inside the cell lifestyle of the bug. So, for example, with Borrelia, it is notorious for penetrating cells, living inside cells, persisting inside cells. And it does this in our joints, in our bone marrow, in our breast, in our brain, and also in the liver. It has a nice hiding place, and if it's living inside our cell, our healthy cells. So he concluded in saying, so I don't say that autoimmune is an appropriate term. It's just so eloquently said, and it's just common sense. It's like, and I'm going to share with you of just a few different types of microbes, parasites that live inside the cells. There's many, many, many different types of parasites that like to live in the cells. Again, they like to hide from our immune system, but we have a very good immune system that is able to catch this. So he also went on to say that, like, when we are, like, this is really important about immunosuppression. So when we have serious Lyme infections, they can be so serious that they have a natural ability to suppress the host immune response. And when the B cells and the T cells, so those are our immune cells, when they're not working up to par because they're being suppressed by this infestation of parasites, Lyme and others, so then if they're not working up to par because of the infection, has suppressed their ability to work properly. So when we're dealing with chronic disease and we have these parasitic infestations and our immune system is already suppressed from those parasites, then when we add different types of immunosuppressive drugs, whether they're steroids or whether they're the disease-modifying drugs that are suppressing either our B cells or our T cells or both, then he said, so if you add these immunosuppressive drugs and steroids, this is where it's interfering with our normal immune function. So it's making our immune system even weaker. And he said, you are really increasing the likelihood of a bad outcome, a bad scenario. Because if we have all these parasites and we suppress our immune system, that's the only thing that's trying to hold them back. they have an open field and they can just start to populate even more quickly. They can take over more ground and cause more disease. So it's just so nice to hear. And I wanted to share that with you. And I will, like, as we put everything into a blog post, which we do every week. So if you haven't subscribed to our list, make sure, because then you can get notified when we have our newsletters every week. And with this video, I always put my notes, and then you'll get my notes. You'll get the links to, you'll be able to listen to Dr. Alan McDonald talk. And he talks a lot about Borrelia. He's been studying Borrelia for many, many years, and he has a lot of amazing insights into, like why it's so challenging to treat the different forms. So it's not always a corkscrew type form of a bacteria, like a corkscrew shape. It can persist like a persister, like a cyst form and a granule form and in biofilms. And so it can be really challenging. And that's just one bacteria. There can be many other intracellular parasites that make our cells sick, and our immune system is going after it. And we have very poor tests to pick this up. Let's talk about a few different intracellular parasites, parasites that live inside of our cells. So we talked a little bit about Borrelia, which is the bacteria that causes Lyme disease, and that's really one of Dr. Alan McDonald's expertise. And he mentioned again that Borrelia can infect the cell. It's notorious for infecting cells because it wants to escape from the immune system and persist inside of us during the chronic or late stage of Lyme disease. And if you've watched my masterclass training, I actually shared an image of the Borrelia spirochete, the bacteria, the corkscrew-shaped bacteria, that Dr. Alan McDonald actually had an image, a picture, where he found that Borrelia were infecting the myelin of nerve cells. So they're right in the myelin. So whether these parasites are close to the cell and our immune system is fighting them and there's some damage, or whether, like in this case, he found Borrelia spirochetes infecting the myelin of nerve cells. Crazy. But that was in Alzheimer's patients. But he has shown very conclusively that Borrelia does infect the central nervous system of MS patients, that it's present in the central nervous system of MS patients. So if it's in our spinal fluid, it can go into the myelin of nerve cells. It could definitely do that in MS also. And it's really frustrating because it's hard to get even a Lyme diagnosis. And Dr. Alan McDonald shared only recently has the CDC allowed the positive presence of Borrelia under the microscope to be considered as a positive test for Lyme disease. It's taken 30 years for them to come to this place. So they just want to do antibody tests. There's different DNA tests, but they're looking at antibody tests. And he was also sharing in that same podcast where, they're looking for antibodies. But if a lot of the antibodies are stuck on the protein that they're part of the immune response and they're not free floating, they're not going to show up. So he has found, different Borrelia loaded with antibodies in people that showed up as a false negative test for Lyme disease. So again, the Lyme disease tests are very, very poor. They give a lot of false negatives. Let's talk about babesia. So with respect to the vector-borne infections that are called Lyme disease, so they're just different infections that travel with biting insects. So, and we call them Lyme disease, but there's quite a few different parasites. So one would be Borrelia, which is traditionally the one they call Lyme disease bacteria. And then there is babesia, which is a protist. And again, the babesia likes to live inside our red blood cells. And also malaria likes to live inside our blood cells. They are intracellular. Bartonella, which causes cat scratch fever, it can give us all kinds of horrible symptoms. And that also lives inside of our cells. Rickettsia is another. These are all the vector-borne infections that travel together in ticks and horseflies and mosquitoes and other biting insects. So rickettsia is another obligate intracellular bacterium, so a parasite, and it causes Rocky Mountain spotted fever, which can be life-threatening. And then there's anaplasma, which is another intracellular bacteria. There's mycoplasma, another intracellular parasite, rickettsia. So those are just quite a few different vector-borne parasites that live inside the cells. And they're very common in people that have multiple sclerosis, but other chronic diseases also. So it is really common for people that want to work with us in the Live Disease-Free plan that they have been tested for Lyme disease and it has tested positive, but they can't seem to clear these infections. And there's a reason for that. So, because just taking antibiotics is not very effective, we have found. We've never recommended it, but just observing people that have done that for, working with Lyme literate doctors and doing a lot of antibiotic use for many months, it just is not a very helpful long-term solution. So those are just some of the vector-borne infections that are intracellular, but there's also things like toxoplasma, which causes toxoplasmosis, which is another intracellular parasite. And we talked about malaria, which is a plasmodium type parasite. Intracellular, again, likes to live in the red blood cells. And then there's trypanazoma, which it causes the Chagas disease. Leishmaniasis is another one, and microsporidia is another one. And even fungi and candida can live inside the cells. So if this is so common, then is it possible that when our immune system is attacking what looks like it's attacking our own tissue as foreign, maybe they're infected cells? I would say yes. And so Dr. Alan McDonald is not the only one that feels this way. Other doctors that I study under, they say, if people ask them, is there any way you can have autoimmunity without a parasite? And they just go, no. Simple answer, no, that's not possible. If there's no infection, there's no autoimmunity. And again, it's not autoimmunity, it's that it looks like it. It looks like the immune system is attacking our tissue, but that's just because we don't have very good tests and we're not picking up the infections that are inside our cells. Another couple of important things, and I'll go to a couple of questions after this. We'll make this a little bit shorter today. Very important topic though, but he also shared, Dr. Alan McDonald also shared that today, microscopic examination, so that's making smears of the spinal fluid, is not routinely done in any lab, in any hospital, or in any medical school in the world. Really awful. And research, so like in the podcast, the gentleman that was interviewing him and said, you've made such amazing, amazing discoveries and insights. And, are other researchers interested in duplicating your results and taking this and running with it? Because these are like life-changing. And he's like, well, there's not a lot of people interested because research requires money. Research requires grants. And so the pharmaceutical companies are going to fund things which will help them with their drugs, right? With their patented drugs. And governments, they're basically giving grants for research that is more following mainstream science or kind of like the standard of care, the kind of the way that we're doing things right now. So we're not looking for parasites, we're just looking at lesions and we're looking like, where are the lesions located and how active are they? And are the MS drugs, are they decreasing the activity of the lesions, right? They're not caring about what's causing the lesions. And actually next week, I'm going to share a whole bunch of studies so that you can see that all parasites, they cause lesions in the central nervous system if they're present there. So even Lyme and there's so many parasites that cause different lesions in the central nervous system. So it's like, why don't you care what's causing the lesion instead of just, oh, well, you have more lesions, they're active, they're not active, they've moved in you have more present in different places. They're interested in, are you having more lesions over time and in different areas of your central nervous system, not what's causing the lesions. Do you think maybe we could figure that out and treat them so we don't have them? That is the key. And so, unfortunately, and this is where, I can't do this by myself. Like, this has to change. Many of you, you've worked with me, and many of you are just finding this. But if you believe in any of this, then network with me and let's find a way that maybe we could put together. Like, I don't want to waste Dr. Alan McDonald's time, but if we could put some funds together for him, if we could devise some studies to do like a bigger trial. We do work with a lot of people that have multiple sclerosis. So, chances are that we will have a great study group that we could be using subjects in the study. But we want this to become bigger, and we want, like, he's done wonderful work, smaller studies, but 100%, like, you cannot find developing tapeworms and developing larval tapeworm cysts in somebody if they don't have that. It's like, it's not by chance, it's not going to just show up by chance. And he keeps saying that if those parasites are there, they're there for a reason. They're there to cause damage and harm to us. So we have to find a way that we can really help to bring his research forward. And, there's great research coming out of the University of Calgary. Very thankful that they're studying, dysbiosis, but they're focused on just bacteria. And, that's just not going to move the needle. It's not going to get us closer to a cure fast enough. We need to really be, first of all, helping to figure out which are the bigger parasites because they cause the most damage. And yes, I think looking at Lyme and looking at the vector-borne infections, but looking deeper into the flareal worms and also the tapeworm larval cysts, and even just flukes. We haven't even really talked much about that. That's going to be a topic for another event that I do. But intestinal flukes can cause so much inflammation inside of people. They're really, really nasty, and and with a lot of these parasites, they actually, like the bigger parasites, they carry smaller parasites. So there's one flareal worm that causes river blindness, and that little round worm, it's a little flareal worm. It carries a bacteria that causes very strong immune reactions. So it's not just that the worms are a problem, but sometimes it's the parasites that they're carrying, that they deposit them in us, and that causes a lot more inflammation. So Dr. Alan McDonald is a hero, and there are other heroes that I really appreciate so much that we've learned so much from. Dr. Klinghardt is another one. There's a few of them. Dr. Simon Yu, knowing a lot about, using the parasite drug. But we really need to forward this research. And I don't think it's going to happen on its own because the governments are not going to fund this. The pharmaceutical companies are not going to fund this. We started this multiple sclerosis infectious disease initiative about 1.5 or 2 years ago. And two really great people were helping me to start this, but one of them was working in the pharmaceutical industry. And I'm like, if you want to help me do this, great. But I just had my reservations that, like, the pharmaceutical companies are not going to be really interested in this because it could definitely interfere with these very expensive immunosuppressive drugs that are, anywhere from $100,000 to $400,000 per year. So that's the problem that we have, is that it's going to come from a grassroots effort. And by the grace of God, absolutely. That's a really important part too. But so if you're interested in this, and if you're just learning about this, what I would say is just watch some of my videos. We have an amazing blog post on our website, livediseasefree.com. Go under blog. And what we do is we take the videos and we just kind of make them a little more concise. But then I put my notes there, and we do hyperlinks so that if I'm talking about studies, if I'm talking about a podcast, if I'm talking about research, you can quickly link to it. And I give a little bit more detail in the written part. So I would encourage you to share that with different groups. But if you're kind of like a go-getter, like some of you are really, you like to make things happen, right? And you're sick and tired of living with this and you want to feel useful again. If you want, that we could maybe start a group where I'm just throwing things out, but we need to get more studying done. Dr. Alan McDonald is just like he's just a worker. He's like, I haven't had a lot of money to discover all these things. I don't need a lot of money. It doesn't require a lot. It doesn't require millions and millions of dollars to get these answers that really are life-changing. And in our students, using the parasite drugs, so just treating Lyme is not enough to recover. But when we're using a holistic approach and we're treating the bigger parasites and we're treating the smaller ones like the Lyme disease, we're treating the worms, big ones, little ones. A lot of our students are passing 2-foot worms and smaller. And then we have the protists, and then we're treating the Lyme infections, and then also the fungus, the different types of candida or mold. Like, people are literally getting their life back. If you haven't looked at their successes, make sure you do. It's so incredibly exciting. And I actually just heard from one of my students in the UK that I supported years ago. And she sent me a picture of her website, and she's doing yoga classes she's teaching, and she recovered from MS, and she's so grateful. And she continues to refer people to us because she has people in her life that are really sick, and she's like, I know what they need. And so it's the Live Disease-Free plan, because we are treating the root cause. That is how we get better, is we have to treat the root cause. I'm going to go to a couple of different questions that you have here. Hello, Kevin. He's another wonderful success. And Michael, Michael, we're still here doing the path. Awesome. And then Facebook user, the human body is amazing. I don't believe autoimmune ever even exists. The immune system in people with chronic illness is basically fighting a war for survival. Well said, really well said. Great, and Kevin is just doing awesome. And then one more thing here I just wanted to mention. My MRI stopped getting worse 8 years ago when I stopped taking the MS disease-modifying medications. They had exhausted every effort treating my MS. The last drug they gave me was a chemotherapy drug. After that, I said no more, and that's why the MRI stopped getting worse. And of course, we're not doctors and we can't make any claims, but that's what we're hearing from people. There are so many people that we haven't even worked with, but they've been diagnosed with MS or other diseases, and they've chosen not to use the disease-modifying drugs because it actually makes them worse. The disease-modifying drugs are suppressing our immune system, and that makes the parasites stronger, and they're able to take over more quickly and cause more damage. Thank you so much, the autoimmune bully. I love your name. That's so cool. And last one here, that's not English, so I can't translate that one. But so if you are new to all of this, we do so much research to help you to see that, number one, you have to be in control of your health. That is the only way that you are going to recover, is to take charge of your health. And we help you to do that. The first thing is to get a belief system that you really understand, and you know that you're not dealing with a mystery. You're dealing with tangible, real infections in the body. Your immune system is struggling because the infections, the parasites, are a little bit too abundant. You're dealing with a parasitic infestation. And as you really start to learn about the different types of parasites that are causing your symptoms, we've got on YouTube and on Facebook, and my more meaningful videos will be on Rumble. That there's things I can't talk about on these platforms. So Rumble is a really great place. But our website, livediseasefree.com, look at our blog post, because that way, if you like to just read quickly, you can. If you like to listen to the video, that is the edited form there, and you'll see the different topics. So you can start to learn about the different types of infections that you could be dealing with and what we need to do to recover from them. And if you're like, oh my gosh, Pam, this makes so much sense. This is the first time that I actually have hope. Watch my masterclass training. It tells you all the steps that we take in the Live Disease-Free plan, how we recover from chronic disease. I also have the Live Disease-Free diet guidelines. You'll find that on our website. You can even just do a Google search of Live Disease-Free diet guidelines and you will find them. And there is a cheat sheet you can put in your kitchen. There is a little video with the guidelines. I also have some other videos on YouTube and Facebook and I think Rumble about the diet, like what I eat. And when you get the carbs low enough, you will notice significant symptom improvements. And that's the start. That is the very beginning of what we do to recover. We have to stop feeding these parasites so much. And what we have found, and this is why I believe so much what Dr. Alan McDonald and these other doctors are saying, is that when we treat the parasites effectively, the whatever you want to call this autoimmune, but the inflammation, our immune system fighting infection, it stops. We don't have this so-called autoimmunity. We just feel better. We feel normal. We feel younger than we have felt in many, many years. That is the answer. And it's time for things to change. It's time for this pendulum, to swing in a different direction, back into truth and into really helping people recover and not into exorbitant, fees for medications that are making us suffer and making us die prematurely. Last couple of questions here. Oh, you're so very welcome. Thank you for all your kind words. And let's see here. I think I've got some of them here. All right. So with that, watch my masterclass training if you haven't. Please like and share and subscribe. If you know of any healthcare professionals, it could be a nurse practitioner, it could be a naturopathic physician, it could be chiropractor, it could be usually general practitioner, usually it's not neurologist, unless your neurologist is really interested in studying the microbiome. There are a few. Then please share these blog posts with them, share the videos with them, start talking about all of this with different groups, start getting people to discuss this and help us to bring change. So with that, take care and bye-bye for now.